Alright, so this is section 7.3, which is about the citric acid cycle. Yeah, here we go. So this is a review of 7.2. We have glycolysis, which is the splitting of glucose into two 3-carbon sugars, and then those 3-carbon sugars are oxidized to form two pyruvate molecules. And then after glycolysis, most of the energy is still in the two molecules of pyruvate. So when oxygen is present, the pyruvate enters the mitochondrion where the oxidation of glucose is completed, and that's in eukaryotic cells. In aerobically respiring prokaryotes, this happens in the cytosol. So inside the mitochondrion, pyruvate undergoes enzymatic reactions that remove carbon dioxide and oxidize the remaining fragment, which forms NADH from NAD+, and also acetyl coenzyme A is created from pyruvate, and that links glycolysis to the citric acid cycle. This is just an overview of the entire process. You have glycolysis on the left, which then in turn goes to pyruvate oxidation, which feeds into the citric acid cycle, which outputs ATP and products that help with oxidative phosphorylation, which are the NADH and FADH2, which I will talk about later. So this is just the first bit of it. You see the pyruvate entering the mitochondrion, and pyruvate oxidation happening, which forms NADH from NAD+, and also offputs CO2, and then that creates, the oxidation creates acetyl coenzyme A, and then the citric acid cycle happens. Again, that's just pyruvate oxidation. So here's the citric acid cycle. There's more to it later, so I'm not really going to talk about it on this slide, but yeah. So this is the past slide was called the citric acid cycle, which is also called the Krebs cycle, and it's a complete breakdown of pyruvate to CO2. And this cycle oxidizes organic fuel derived from pyruvate, and it generates 1 ATP, 3 NADH, and 1 FADH2 per turn, which is 6 NADH, 2 FADH2, and the equivalent of 2 ATP is the total yield. Citric acid cycle has 8 steps, and it's each one is catalyzed by a specific enzyme. And the start of it is when the acetyl group of acetyl coenzyme A joins the cycle by combining with oxaloacetate. Can never say that right, which forms citrate. And then the next 7 steps are breaking down the citrate to form oxaloacetate again, oxaloacetate. And the NADH and FADH2 produced by the cycle relay electrons to the electron transport chain, which in turn helps create ATP by phosphorylating ADP. Another one, yep, you just saw that. Okay, citric acid cycle. We're going to go into this in depth in a couple slides, so I'm just going to go like that and pause for a second so that you guys can write it down. Cool. So this is the start. When acetyl coenzyme A adds to the oxaloacetate, which produces citrate, and that's an exergonic reaction. And yes. And so from step 1 through step 5, you'll see these red carbons and these blue carbons. Basically what's happening with those is that 2 carbons are being added each step in the form of acetyl coenzyme A, and then 2 carbons are being exiting the cycle through carbon dioxide. Okay, so you have your first redox reaction between NADH plus and NADH. The NADH plus is reduced and isocitrate is oxidized, and you see your first carbon dioxide release. And then there's another redox reaction over here. Can you leave me alone? It's not what I meant to do. Anyway, I think that was it on the last slide. There we go. Yeah, basically it. So in this one, you have your first ATP formation through GDP. So the cycle creates GDP, which then goes to GTP, which then is put into ADP, and then ATP is created when ADP is phosphorylated, which uses the electrons that are put into the electron chain with the help of FADH and NADH. So here's another redox reaction. Malate is oxidized, NAD plus is reduced. Yeah. And you don't see the carbon dioxide leaving now. Like, we don't have any more of that anymore. So then malate becomes oxaloacetate, and that is the end of the cycle. And then another acetyl coenzyme is added, and the whole cycle begins again. So that's it. Bye.